You are listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino martial arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week I get on Zoom and I talk with a panel of former guests. I have Christopher Harley, Kurt Cornwell, and Jacob Nordin, and the four of us take the short story long. We talk about research in the martial arts. What exactly is it? Determining expertise. When questions actually are statements. And of course our exciting lightning rounds, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and today is a very special episode. This was, I think, the brainchild of Jake Nordin, and then quickly got named very appropriately by Christopher Harley as short story long, and then poor Kurt Cornwell got drug into the whole thing. So welcome these three gentlemen, all podcast alumni, to the show. And folks, I don't know, strap yourself in, strap yourself on, whatever your strapping is, because look out, I don't know what's going to happen here.
It'll be fine.
If there are small children in the room, make sure they stick around.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to miss a second.
These are words we use in sentences.
That's right.
I mean, it's true to form. I still just can't believe that the idea of this is that, like, I keep thinking of Diana Rathborn being like, oh, it's like a Mensa meeting. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like guys that are really going to talk a lot. And right before we went on air, I asked Tim of like, do we actually have a topic? He's like, no, we're just going to go. Like, oh God. Okay. Completely rudderless. Great. All right.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. And then there was the question about wearing pants. You know, there was all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, man.
Well,
It's called flow. It's called flow.
We should let the audience know that the title became short story long because verbal diarrhea just doesn't have a good ring to it.
Yeah, it's true.
Enticing, and everyone have to get their earmuff diapers, I guess, or something.
That's true. That's true. Plus, I mean, the promotional card might look a little different with a graphic with the
graphic for that.
Yeah. Go full brown note on it.
Kurt, if you could get on that, you got the graphic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I wasn't immediately visualizing what that would look like. Jake, are you on a mic? What's your mic? It sounds like muffled, so far away.
Oh, is it?
The sound guy. This is really
So-
embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Here, let me see if I can fix it.
That crunching sound you hear is Kurt busting his chops.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, and I'm sitting there going like,
dear.
Kurt, the loudest guy actually has like a limit on his volume. Maybe we should let that happen.
Yeah. Right. I just like everything Jake has to say. It'd be sad if after the fact you couldn't hear it.
Oh, wow.
See?
Now there's nothing. Now you're muted. I just see his lips moving and nothing going on.
And now I have to walk away and let my sick dog out. So
okay.
So far, I mean,
yeah.
We're off to a rolling start.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this for what, 9 more hours? right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 9,
All
10,
right.
something like that. It's like a telethon, in a way.
Check.
We'll,
How about
we'll
that
be
now?
randomly calling different instructors.
Sounds great.
That's right.
Does
Hey,
that
we
sound
want to-
better?
But we really should
There
do
we-
that.
That sounds. Yeah, exactly. Just
Okay.
prank. Hey, now that could be a good show where we prank call. Or is that not what you had in mind?
No, oh God.
I
just
got
had
this great idea. What if we pretended to be from New Jersey? We're all the right age, and then we just call stores and
Right.
Yeah.
end up on Shock Jock radio
Well,
morning
I was
shows.
thinking, Chris had said,
Whatever-
calling
Whatever that jerky.
different instructors. Yeah. Calling different
Schmappy.
instructors, just random calls to different
Yeah, exactly.
instructors. Like,
Absolutely. Do you teach
Hey.
Mongolian toe wrestling? I'm looking for a Mongolian toe wrestling joint.
I'll be there Tuesday. I'll bring my hats and my glasses.
nice.
This
well,
does
guys, was
have
there-
like a telethon vibes. So if that's what this is, what's our cause?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I was going to say, what kind of topics? Now, we were kind of discussing, Jake, before you hopped on, the idea of research versus quote research, and we were kind of talking about it in terms of things in general, but the topic then kind of went to Burton Richardson is an actual researcher, a guy who's actually kind of going out to a place and doing a thing, and that is certainly what we call field research, because I know as I had to teach when I was in Kazakhstan a academic writing course, a newer, higher level one that they put in, we had they had to write a 20-page report based on library research and field research. So it is one of those things when people talk about, I researched, like, okay, what do you think you mean by that?
I refer back to Bill Burr. It's like there's a difference between reading something and learning something.
Right.
Great. You read something online. That's great. Oh, you can read. Well, I didn't expect that, but okay. I don't know. Yeah,
Life's full of surprises.
yeah, I tell you what.
That's a good. I think a good way to conceptualize this. I mean, if we're talking specifically in the arena of martial art, which is sort of why we're all together. It's like you could drop in on some classes and watch different classes. You know what I mean? Or like I've tried Hapkido once, probably twice, but I don't think I've learned anything about Hapkido. You know what I mean? Like I did capoeira at a school in Minneapolis years ago that also had Hapkido, and I was like, I never done this. I'll stick around and try it out once or twice, but that doesn't mean I know anything about it, let alone have some sense of like authority or experience with it.
Yeah.
What's a, and maybe this isn't concrete, but like, Harley, what's a threshold do you think? Because you're a very analytical person and very, frankly, well researched. Everybody here is, other than myself. But where do you find that you have like a threshold where you think, okay, like as a litmus test or something, I kind of trust that this person genuinely has some experience with it?
Yeah, the first thing that always will ping for me is someone who acknowledges that there's a whole lot they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as someone says that, I'm in. I'm all ears for sure. And anyone who then obviously there's sort of the counter to that of anyone saying like, don't listen to so and so. They don't have anything to say, which is different from so and so saying this and there's some factual problems there, right? And they can give some history or whatever. That's different from don't listen to them. They don't have anything to say or they don't know what they're talking about or whatever. That's also kind of a, okay, I will take everything you say with a grain of salt from here on, because it when you're, it's that whole like, it came up during camp, lineage, right? People like lineage matters except for the fact that it doesn't, right? It's like being part of the lineage doesn't mean anything. What did you get from it and what of it can you pass on? Right? If you can't, if you're not actually a link in that chain and you can't convey that information down the line, you're not part of a lineage.
Yeah.
Right? You're not in that line.
Well, you're a stump. You're an appendix.
You're at the dead end.
You're a
You're at the dead end.
organ.
Yeah.
Great answers, by the way. Like so what I think is interesting about this is asking like what is your perspective where you buy in that somebody they say something that makes you think, you know what, I trust that this person is a resource for knowledge, right? But a lot of your
just that they're doing their best,
sure, but
to be as honest as they can be.
Yes, but to highlight the examples that you gave had more to do with like times where where you're like, now I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't what they did say. It's what them saying what they don't know, or them saying what other people don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that shows us like you're a person who's open-minded enough that you're like, I'm in. I'm here to learn. You know what I mean? Whether you're the expert or not, I'm here to learn. If you start saying you're the expert and other people aren't, or you don't really know it all, but you're claiming you are, then I'm out, but otherwise your default setting is I'm here to learn, right? Which I think is a really phenomenal trait if you're trying to research.
Let's be really clear. If we're talking actually about me and my personality and everything, my default setting is I think you're probably full of shit.
Yes,
I said all that nice shit.
That's his default. That is his default setting. Yeah.
I mean default.
Right, I'm just gonna mark this down. Undercuts Kurt at minute 5.
Sorry, I'm just sorry. You guys didn't know that already.
But that goes back. That goes back to like, I mean, we're talking. As soon as I have memories, that was kind of my perspective in the world.
Yeah.
I had certain life experiences, having a congenital heart defect, dealing with doctors and people who were in authority and all kinds of stuff. And I just did learn relatively early, all of these adults are making it up as they go. But that doesn't mean they're unreliable, but it just left it open for like, okay, well, I get to figure it out for myself if I want to.
Right. Which is that's research, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I was going to say it's interesting because of how you started to articulate that there's a duality then between cynicism and open-mindedness. But what you're elaborating on is a healthy skepticism, which you have to have if you're open-minded, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be naive. You're just going to get run over.
Right. Well, there's a whole thing with like, I mean, if you bring it to the martial arts world of like the hypotheses in martial arts is kind of a funny concept because it's like, I mean, how do you create a double blind? Like, oh, well, Hapkido is better than Jiu-Jitsu is better than Kali is better than Thai boxing. And you're like, well, okay, what's your sample? Is your sample, let's use someone like Burton Richardson, who's clearly came out of the box pretty ready to go. Or David Kaiser is always going to be my reference point. And we just taught him nothing but that. And then sent them in, and we've clearly demonstrated that our thing is the best through this simple research. And you're like, well,
with body,
it's a small sample size.
Right. Well, I think you should have the gold medalist in judo versus the 4-year-old in the taekwondo class. I think that'll give you a good.
Yeah.
This work. It's like
visually hilarious.
Yeah. But that gets to the other thing too is I think in terms of research, there are going to be things that stick out that demonstrate a bit of authority, and that's going to be two pretty big things. One, an understanding of context, and that really matters, right? Because it's always going to be context specific, right? Any information has to be, you can study, you could have spent tons of time studying the formal history of the Mongols as written down by, let's say, the Chinese, whatever Chinese dynasty you want to pick that was dealing with them. Or you can look at it from a Crusader perspective, where they were like, for a little while, they just bumped up against each other. You're going to get very different information, very different perspectives. And it's the context that's going to matter. And it's through that and understanding that you can actually gain understanding for yourself. Because that's the other part, right? If you're researching and you don't change your understanding, you don't have to change your perspective, but if you don't change your understanding, I don't think you researched.
Right.
Well,
I
Because
like,
that's just searching. That's not
Yeah.
researching.
right.
Yeah.
I did like what Rick said this weekend, and I've heard him say variations. That Kurt will be like, "Oh, sure," but he was like, the mistake we make is believing that somebody from, say, China thinks like us, but just speaks a different language. And I mean, and that factors into this idea of research in a big way, because like if if our context is different based on all these markers, cultural and linguistic and every other thing that I don't know a thing about because I'm a high school dropout. That research is that exact thing that you're talking about, is Harley. I mean, like, mileage is going to vary, like hugely so, and you can be presented. You can even the parallax can be like you can stand over my shoulders, so we're literally looking at it from the same position, essentially seeing the same thing, but just based on those cultural and experiential things, we're going to see something completely different. So especially when you're talking about something that has a large subjective element to it, like let's say martial arts. So I don't know. I think a lot about that.
What we're all putting our finger on is something that I think is pretty
Yeah.
phenomenal, is arguably really profound, is that starting in the context of martial arts, research, I think a lot of us, and I have done this many times and probably still do, when researching a martial art, quote unquote, you're looking at the art itself under the microscope, right? How does it operate? What are the movements? What are the priorities? What is the cultural context in which it was created? What are the various techniques, tactics, whatever?
Well, now there's an interesting point right there. The cultural context in which it was created seems to get lost out of a lot of conversation. You see when it's
Absolutely.
like, oh, that thing will never work. That thing will never work. You're like, well, it has under these conditions.
Yeah,
That's why it's there.
Well, and environmental, right?
Right.
'Cause culture is
100%.
often a product of the environment.
100%. But with those things all being true, and let's say you're looking at 4 different martial arts styles, all of those things being true, we know from the Burton Richardson or the David Kaiser example of like, okay, so if you fed all of these traits into those machines, you're going to get something phenomenal because those are phenomenal individuals. Your Rick Fays, your Greg Nelsons, your Guru Nasanos, all these different people are phenomenal examples, right? For every single one of them, there's 1.5 million of the rest of us who are not going to be able to operate on that level because we're who we are and they are who they are. So my point is, martial art gives us an opportunity wherein we think we're researching something external, but the fact is it's purely us, right? It's purely researching ourselves. And I think more often than not, that part gets missed. We think we've become an expert of the external thing. This is the art that I've chosen. I'm an expert at it, or I'm an expert in understanding how this is different than this. But because it's so subjective, the only thing that you've really learned, that you really researched, is how that kind of dissolves into who you are and how you provide input into that thing, right? And it's so many of the problems arise to Harley's original answer to my question to him of what are the markers, is when somebody then puts themselves on some sort of pedestal and says, I'm the one that knows the things. Well, I'm thrilled that you've learned a lot about your perspective and about yourself. That's phenomenal. And I bet there's a lot I can learn from that. But where do we draw that line where you've mastered this other thing? You know what I mean? It's one of two things. It's either extremely rare and exceptional that martial art can give us that, or martial art is pointing the way to the fact that most things you can research will give us that, right? That most things are contextual and subjective.
Sure.
Well, it's what you're talking about is, so MKG had its summer camp, and at the end of the summer camp, there was a really cool thing. We can get into it later if you want to, but just the summary is everyone got a chance to create a demo. And this was a broad spectrum of experience.
Fantastic. Man, see, I need to show up at these things.
Yes.
And the demo was from the furthest out range all the way in and then down to the ground, if you could manage that, right? and get creative, do your thing. And my summary for that was it was like 20 minutes of prep and probably 10 minutes of demo, right? With every pairing. So we got a half an hour of actually all living the art, right? There was Marshall, but we were all actually being and living in the art. And
Can you say more about that, what that distinction is for you, actually living the art? Because that's a hell of an expression.
Yeah.
Well, and
that might be a good one to have all of us touch on that, because
and it's the word you just used. It's expression. Right? And there is no shortage of Marshall information and perspectives and what have you. But the art part is that self bit, that self-discovery, that relational discovery. It's what, Tim, your podcast is really kind of focused on, which is how does martial art
affect everything else.
Affect everything else, exactly.
Yeah. So it's that thing of it's the expression, it's the personal, it's the growth, the shift, the change, the creativity, the fumbling, right?
It's not clean.
Right, dropping basically like if you could drop all
Still beautiful.
The specifics of the martial parts, even though there's martial there, but it's just not common to have the art part be the focus. I mean, there are whole systems and styles that are much more esoteric, and people would say like, oh, they're just really into the arty bit. No, they're still not either a lot of the time.
Yeah,
it depends, right? I mean, and it also depends on who's your guide, who are you going to as you're researching yourself and the system. How much of that is you becoming part, a link in the chain, and it's not that one's good, bad, better, worse, but it is definitely a deficiency, I think, in sort of the martial art world. I mean, you still have people who have 30 years experience who will entertain the question, who would win so-and-so or so-and-so? Or what's better, that art or that art?
Right. Like, are we digging corpses up? Is that like what are we talking about?
Yeah, like, is that system better than that system? It's like, for what? For what? And who's doing it? Right? Like the best football offensive system. What are you talking about? For what team? When?
Yeah.
Right.
The big question is, why are you asking? Why are you asking?
Yeah.
Go conversations can be fun, but those are geek conversations.
Yeah, it's fantasy.
They're not practical, and they don't actually reveal anything except a whole lot about yourself.
Yeah.
And what you care about.
If you're asking because you want to know what the right art for you is, right? So like I get this a lot. I'll get maybe somebody I went to high school with will send me a message on Facebook because they see what I do. Or their
you get those too.
Yeah, right. Their kid's gonna get into martial arts. So that I just don't know anything about this. What's the best one I should pick? Right. And for that example, that context, that motivator, usually my answer is what's closest to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this doesn't need to be more complicated than that, Now, if you're saying I have somebody that's stalking me, I have an active threat in my life, or I live or work in a bad area that has a high crime rate, or my teenage child wants to get into combat sports and be a competitor, you know what I mean? There's all these different shades of things then to look at. And so each of those questions will have a very different answer. But so often when people are saying, I think this person would be this person, or this art is better than this art, why are you even asking that question?
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to Short Story Long with Kurt, Jacob, and Christopher, and myself. Coming up next week, I connect to New York and I talk with martial artist Philip Cruz. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives.
An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the Events Calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts.
Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.